Hey everybody, this is Petey from the Spin Rack, and we also have.
Calvin Ellis, ready to rock.
So we are finally getting to the Batman trailer that was released at the end of last month. We're gonna hook it up, ready, set, and let her rip. I'm your secret friend. Who? Haven't a clue. Let's play a game. Just me and you. I want my part of this. 20 years in Gotham. How many good guys are left? How many stayed that way? Why is he writing to you? You're becoming quite a celebrity. If you are justice, please do not lie. What is the price for your blind eye? This bat vigilante is like a one-man reign of terror. You don't get to decide what the right thing is. You're gonna go to war. On vengeance. Yeah, they don't know when it's gonna come out.
That might be a good thing.
So, what do you think?
I don't know. I don't know what the hell that is.
Well, it's a Batman versus like the early Batman, that's versus the police. But it seems like he wasn't versus the police early on. Somehow this nut is talking the police into thinking Batman's a liar since he has a mask on. Ooh, he has a mask. He's not telling the truth. Like, come on.
Movie trophies, typical. It's just the typical trophies at the end. Oh, why is he wearing a mask? It's like, we know already why he's wearing a mask. You can't scare people as a Batman if you see your face.
Well, I mean, they're just getting. That's one of the things. Just you just need to keep moving forward because every time you do this, they don't know what to do with the secret identities. So just leave them alone. Just the do the character fighting, but they want to spend all the time. Oh, lies! You lied. Oh, he got a mask on. He lied. I understand in film they don't like characters to lie, but it's like it's not. It's a. I don't know.
Well,
Ultimately, some of this stuff looks okay. It looks graphic. I guess they got a little Catwoman running around there, but him being cool with the cops and then slowly losing it. When ultimately the scenes with him and the cops should be just him getting away from them. That's what
yeah,
was cool about the early Batman was that basically there wasn't a scene where he's confronted by 3 million of them and had to pound them out. He'd be like, shh, or driving away. And like that's what's cool. I don't want to see him basically having to lump up some cops for no
well,
good reason.
the I mean, Batman, as far back even as the Golden Age, wasn't in the business of beating up police officers. He
Mm-hmm.
would try to get away from them. You know, for the most part, that was it. And then eventually he was deputized. Even in Miller's work, when you go to both the Dark Knight Returns, that's something else at the end of the day because he's a straight on vigilante terrorist, if you will, at that point. But when he does Batman Year One, the cops he's beating up, these are corrupt cops.
Yeah.
So they deserve, we can say they deserve it.
So I mean, with this said, it looks okay. I don't know. I think what they had in mind for idea was it Batman versus Deathstroke with Ben Affleck. That always sounded like a little more fun than trying to go to this sort of year one period, but never really get the year one right type of deal, you know. So, and we kind of had that with the other Batman trilogy. This is the same studio that made the Dark Knight trilogy, so somehow this will be the same. I don't think so, but what can we say? We got a new young Batman. We'll see how this plays out for DC. Any other thoughts?
Oh, I've got a bunch of thoughts, but I guess the biggest one is okay. We know that the Riddler is probably going to be the villain here. That's been telegraphed with easily, but they don't know when this movie's coming out. That for me is a big thing. So confidence is an issue as to how this thing is going to perform. And the other big thing is that Warner Brothers has relied so heavily on Batman. Batman has been their go-to superhero for everything. That now I'm looking at this and I'm like, you have no new ideas for Batman, do you? You don't have any. You're just like, okay, let's start all over. New actor. Okay, let's try to take it back to the beginning. You've done that already. You've done that twice already. You have no ideas for this character. I'm looking at this right now. I'm like, what's the take? This looks like a cross between, it reminds me of one of these Batman comics, which would be a borderline, it would be like one of these borderline horror stories, surreal horror stories at the end of the day that you can do with Batman, like the vampires running around, that type of stuff. And I'm pretty certain because the lead actor, that's why the vampire thing comes in first more. But like those type of things where we actually do horror because, Batman can lend himself to that thing. And then I'm looking around, but that's the feel in terms of the filming. Then you look at the story and like, what? It's like, is this going to be another thing of Batman trying to get the job done while the police don't necessarily trust him? We've done that already. Okay, we've done that in 2. We've done that in 3 films at this point. So what are you doing here? And this has been the guy you have leaned on so heavily. You don't have any new ideas for this character. That's what I'm getting right now from that particular trailer.
Well, I think because I guess this is trying to draw from what's it, from Zero Year, but it doesn't feel like they're ready to really go that far into what happened in Zero Year, which is big enough for a film, but they seem like they're just gonna do the Batman Begins version of that story where they kind of take the production values down a whole lot just to do a very simple sort of Batman, Riddler, that sort of story, rather than say, you know what, let's go full out. Let's try to do the last story in the Zero Year in this one, because which would be pretty visual. It would have some elements of like, it wouldn't be Cataclysm, but have some elements of that, and you could have some fun where you start off and then you put Batman in a place where you haven't really seen him before, and see Gotham in a different place than you saw before. But
you could do that. But that means you would have to be willing to do. I hate to say this. You would have to be willing to do what Marvel does. They actually go back and read the stories and say, hey, look, there's some stuff over here we can actually adapt. We don't necessarily. Few of the Marvel movies are created out of whole cloth. Few of the Marvel movies are just, look, let's just put something together and do it out, and do this here. And maybe we'll use some of the characters. A good number of that stuff, these are storylines that resonated or did very well in terms of the comics, and they may use them loosely, they may adapt them a little bit more tightly, but they go back to that source material for their ideas. For the most part, you have films like Captain Marvel, which is pretty much its own thing. That was, a whole cloth thing. But you look at the other stuff, and like, no, all of this other stuff, these were things that actually happened in the comics, and this is one of the reasons why I think they had a bigger thing of success with it. Batman, with all the DC characters, they haven't even scraped the surface of what these stories have to offer. And now you're like, okay, we got a new actor, we want to do something new, and they're doing the whole cloth. I'm like, no, just do the Long Halloween, just adapt that. Yeah, you got to pay somebody if that's what you're avoiding, but Warner Brothers doesn't seem to necessarily seem to be in the same situation of Disney where they don't want to pay. So I don't think that's it. But you've got stories that you could adapt, or at the very least, let that be the foundation of what you're going to do. and give people an entertaining story as opposed to, well, let's go for a different take or a new look or a new this or a new that. What is the idea behind this? And at this point, yeah, I see some, a bunch of stuff that looks new and a bunch of stuff that's already been done before. So I'm not quite certain how this, lands with people, because I do think Batman, they've done so much Batman. They've done so much Batman. Is this really going to be anything different than what people have seen before? I mean, to be quite honest, the last Batman with Ben Affleck was very different than what people had seen before. This guy was driving the Batmobile into people's heads. So, I'm pretty certain that this over here might be more of a return to form. But is this going to be anything different story-wise than what you've seen before? And maybe that won't matter.
Yeah, I mean, I can agree with you wanting to see something different, but ultimately, the way it works is let's just give him another one of the same, but we change the actor. It looks like it's different. We change, he's younger, that sort of thing, rather than just say, hey, let's pull this story out of, I mean, to use a Marvel sense, like they say, hey, can you give us another Ragnarok with this character? Can you give us Ragnarok with that character? That sort of thing, rather than say, hey, maybe we can, maybe it'll be its own Ragnarok. That we don't understand what that means. That it's like it's going to be a new story that no one knew, and then next thing you know, it'll be as popular as Ragnarok. We don't know that. We only know Ragnarok. It's like, all right, I've had it. But anyway, this is another Batman thing, and it's interesting. Have you seen the Doom Patrol? At least when they were in the Titans. Cal, have you seen that?
I have not. I have not watched one episode of Doom Patrol.
Well, in the Titans, they show up, and
The actual Doom Patrol, they show up in Titans. I thought the tone of those two shows were too different for those characters to ever meet.
no, they definitely meet, and because she meets who is it? Raven meets Beast Boy, and Beast Boy brings Raven back to where he lives. And that's where we meet the Doom Patrol. Now, I think because of budgetary things, they have Elastigirl going through something, so her powers work really crazy. But even though I'm not necessarily keen on trying to translate the design from the Morrison run, the way they had Robot Man reacting, and some things you can't really do in the comic book, like him not being able to eat, but being at this table where the Negative Man that put together all these food and all this stuff for them to eat, and he's like asking people how things taste. So there was some elements that were good. I don't really like what they did with Niles, and I was giving them some leeway with Rita because maybe it would lead into something in a regular series where they could really do her growing. But it was just trying to do, at least seeing them try to do something different. Not in comparison to the Titans, because the Titans was really kind of wacky. But it's just like getting these properties and try to see some element of where you can explore it on film and show something that we really couldn't see. The fact that if the Doom Patrol were eating, obviously Cliff wouldn't be involved in it. He'd be like, because the Negative Man has a scene where he's making all this food. It's really dynamic. You don't even think about it. I'm not even thinking about Robot Man because this is his intro. And then when they go to the table, Robot Man is like, how does that taste? Was that? Oh, I remember that. That was great. I was like, oh yeah, that would kind of be tough for Robot Man to be there. But just having something that you could do on film, doing something different with it a little bit, not and then drawing on the real stories where you could, because But I mean, because they also had Celsius show up in there, so it was like wow. But then Niles kind of goes off the handle, so it was just like I don't know if Niles is that. I mean, I guess if you go to the, I guess if I'm not sure how the Morrison, how they had Niles Calder, how they had him. So it might be right in cue with what he was doing. So, but anyway, just taking these characters and having sort of fun with them, rather than, and not to say what they do with the Titans, because Titans are so much connected to what George Perez did, and George Perez did a real world thing, but just people just saying, I'm going to come up with our own characters. We're going to do our own thing. that sort of thing. But anyway, just to go to that point you were making up, but that's
But
enough.
that's probably the best point. When is the last time that somebody actually had fun with Batman?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, almost like the crazy part of it. The people had the most fun is obviously, which was just a companion book, which you talked about one of our last ones, which was the animated Batman, and John Byrne's Batman Captain America. And mind you, before the animated series came out, Byrne went to DC and asked them, "Hey, I want to do a Batman and Robin series, but it'd be like a all access kids sort of thing, you know." And they're like, "No, Batman's one of our most serious titles." And then the animated thing was coming out. They had the companion book, and then all the pros were like, "The real Batman is in the animated comic book."
Exactly that.
So it's just like the call of what Byrne was thinking about worked. Not to say that it just would work because of Byrne or Byrne had like just saying the right idea of what the pros who were in there was kids buying Batman thought was a cool Batman, and people like look when pick up Batman, that sort of thing. So it's interesting that that sort of thing that you're pointing out, that this was one of the things that was when Batman was fun. And I remember they sort of playing off of who's the new girl with Batman. Like they did the animated comic where Batgirl is running around with Batman, and then the press is like, "Ooh, Batman and Batgirl, like what's going on here?" Like these guys are they like the animated thing. They just said, "Hey, you're forcing Batgirl on us. We're just gonna have some fun with her. We don't care. She can fight like the rest of them. Just let her fight." So you can comic books. No, you got to make it into Oracle. She has to be Oracle. It's so much a more better character. It's like than a fighting character. No, no, it helps out people struggling. But how she got there? No, no, forget that. But anyway, but yeah, that sort of fun thing. Those are a couple of moments I can think about that were really fun, or at least for me. You know. Anyway.
Well, I mean, I'm thinking the comic, yes, and in terms of the film, I'm trying to remember when was the last time I saw Batman. When was I saw? I think, yeah, I can't remember when was the last time I saw a Batman movie and it was fun. You know, it was actually fun.
You gotta go to the
Batman Forever. Or you talk? Oh, you mean if you really want to go for fun, then you got to go to the Adam West series.
the Adam West cartoon that they did. Some great stuff with that. I was just thinking of something else that they did. No, I'll go to the Justice League where Batman sings to Wonder Woman. So anyway, but yeah, those are the last couple of things where I would think about because I mean I don't know, it's but I mean yeah, most of the time with Hollywood, it's just give us the same, you know. It's like, hey, we like this stuff, but hey, well, you know, Clint Eastwood is a good actor. Can we get another Dirty Harry or something like that?
Well, I think unfortunately they put themselves in a box because they haven't explored any of the other characters that they have. So Batman is the go-to guy. Batman is, oh no, you know, Batman is a consistent seller and so on and so forth. So now we're getting another Batman movie. And I'm like, all right, but what are you going to bring that people haven't seen already? Especially since you don't want to have Batman and Robin. So you can't have that dynamic going on because you don't want any kids in there because then you don't have the serious tone. You can't, you know, it can't be a lighter adventure or something because Batman is, you know, you've already cemented that this guy is deathly serious. And to be honest, I don't know if the audience is going to accept anything else at this point. So what is it that you're going to bring to this other than the fact that it's a new guy and we're pretty much going to be starting over? What are you going to bring to this at the end of the day? That when I saw those question marks, that was my big thing. What are you going to be doing with this character yet again? Because this guy's had a lot of movies. This guy's had, in terms of superhero movies, I don't think there's any character who's had as many as he has. He's had a lot of movies. So what are you going to do with them now? I mean, be it a hit movie or be it a movie that felt like a dud, he's been out there. So now we get another Batman movie. Well, what are you going to do? Because as of right now, I'm looking at it and I'm like, I've seen this before.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, see. We'll see what happens and see if they can get the younger audience to sort of pile in, which it seems like what the plan is. Say, we got this Batman, and maybe we'll have, maybe if this Flash thing happens, maybe we'll have another Batman.
Doubt it, but maybe.
So I guess that's it for this one. We'll be checking it out once it comes out. Spinner Rack.
Out.